Second topic I want to do today has to do with registered citizens and travel. So, one of the issues that we're having right now, of course, is that the various acts of Congress that have chosen to stigmatize people convicted of sex offenses. Notice how I put that, people convicted of sex offenses. Not everybody is a sex offender who has been convicted of a sex offense. Um, Travel is something that everybody loves to do, or a lot of people love to do, and this time of year travel is a very, very big deal. Well, for some people who are off probation, who have served their time, they're still not home free, because unlike other crimes that one commits or gets committed around them, um, when you travel, if you are on the registry, registered citizen, what happens is that they make sure that they monitor you every step of the way. For those of you who think, well, that's good, they may commit a crime, remember, these are the same people who make sure that you can't work in nursing homes because you might assault an old person. Because obviously, if you have a fetish for children, you also apparently have one for old people. And you can't work in funeral homes because obviously you must have a necrophilia fetish. And you can't work as a bartender some places because, of course, alcohol can be an addictive property, and you probably are addicted to that. And you can't work in a hospital as a care worker because they have drugs in hospitals, and you might be, prone to that. Never mind the number of nurses that have become addicted to it, not to mention doctors. And the list goes on. So it's part of the general punishment that we're going to punish you for effectively having a libido. And again, I'm not making light of people who hurt other people. Not doing that. I am trying to explain to you, however, those of you who are willfully and happily ignorant, that it doesn't work as neatly as you think it does. Okay, there are a lot of people who, even if they did something, there's no evidence that they're going to do it again in the vast majority of cases. Even those who want to spar with me and say, whoa, recidivism is 6%. Well, that means 94% didn't. What's the recidivism rate for theft, for auto theft, which is all the rage here in Prince William County, even though the local police have just recently gotten an award for doing some amazing work to try to curb it, although you wouldn't convince the citizenry of that, certainly. Um, but those who want to travel or who might want to retire overseas, well, guess what? Here's the rule on that. If you want to go for a visit overseas and you don't have a passport like I do, yours has expired, never fear, you can get one from your State Department, but you have to submit a voluntary letter, which also would admit that you are on the sex offender registry, so they can put a big stamp, some kind of imprimatur on there, and identify you as a loathsome SO. And so, therefore, we have to watch you. And there's a whole host of countries that will not allow you in. And not all of these are countries like Thailand, okay? They would surprise you. The European Union has a lot of countries, the Commonwealth countries, Britain, Ireland, or Northern Ireland and Ireland. They're different, remember. Canada. Um, I think Bermuda's on the list. A lot of Australia and New Zealand certainly are. They are not allowing you in. A lot of the Southeast Asian countries do not allow you in. If you're a teacher or something like that, you might want to go there. They're not even allowing you in. Okay. If you have a dual citizenship, that may work to your benefit, but most of us don't. So here, your passport is expired. Your desire to get a new one, you pay the fees. You have to make that voluntary disclosure. If you do not make that voluntary disclosure, when they cross reference your information, they discover that you have been less than forthright about it because, after all, you're not, in my case, and you don't want it stamped all over the place. Never fear, they'll arrest you anyway, okay, after they do something. So, you're going to get screwed no matter what on this, okay? It just is a matter of time because under Megan's law and under similar laws, they're very, very interested in making sure that you don't hurt anyone, even if you had no contact offense, no contact with anyone, had a spotless record, and but they convicted you. So they cheated fair and square, and therefore you're going to pay for it for a very long time. Uh, in most cases, you're on the registry for 15, 20, or 25, or life, um, a minimum of 15 years. Some places rare are 10 years, I think. There's a couple out there, a couple of states. Now, let's say you want to travel and you don't want to retire there. You travel to a particular place. You have to give your local unit that ends up monitoring you. Compliance officers are often called. You have to give them 21 days notice. And with 21 days notice, you also have to make sure that you tell them where you're going to go, tell them what your flight is, and everything else so that they can monitor you, so they can make sure that the local police have all the fear they need that they can instill into the community about you. So, if they do that, of course, and if people find out and if they're monitoring you, you might not get the vacation you want. You may not get an opportunity to look around or relocate and have any peace of mind at all because, of course, you're never over your crime. You never pay a price because the price is perpetual. You never get done paying. You're never getting done paying any kind of price at all. So let's say you want to establish yourself overseas, you want to retire there. Well, you can. In the old days, they would go and bring you back because you'd failed to register, and then they put you in prison for failing to register. Well, they lost that battle a while ago, so you can actually go and retire somewhere overseas and maybe an expat community. But of course, you're going to have that little stamp in your passport as long as you're still on the registry. And if you're on for life, as a couple of people are, though they are non-violent offenders, they're non-violent, they're still on for life, then you have no chance of getting off of that, barring any change in the law, of course. So here you are, you've given your notice, you've gone there, you could potentially be persecuted. You would not have U.S. law protecting you necessarily if it gets out, and you were there in that sort of environment. It would seem to me very, very vulnerable. Now, you want to retire there, you want to retire to one of those countries, you want to request asylum. Well, that's a different issue. There's more legality to it. But we have had a couple of cases in Germany that I'm only tangentially aware of where the courts over there were a little surprised. They didn't want to butt heads necessarily with the US government judges, but they really didn't see what the issue was. Hmm, does this sound familiar? The person was adjudicated, convicted, paid the price, incarceration, fines, etc. But somehow they're still being persecuted. And they don't understand that. And that's because it doesn't make sense in the land of the brave and of the free, where democracy is supposed to reign, yada, yada, yada. So just bear those things in mind, those of you who are not on the registry, that it is very, very difficult in all aspects of one's life, not to mention if you're lucky enough to find a job where you get to travel overseas, and you must, in fact, for your work. It's a whole other can of worms that you're opening up. Getting a new email through your job, well, you could be arrested and thrown in prison if you didn't report it. Uh, you have a new social media account, well, they might be going after you for that because one of the things that they're doing now with the compliance process is they're effectively, if you're on a low tier, like I'm a tier one, they will go after you and in various creative ways. Somebody will call you and I will say, well, wait a minute, I just 6 months ago had a compliance. Oh, I do the employment compliance. Okay, well, I update that. Well, do you have anything else to update? Well, we'll be by to talk about it. And then, well, wait a minute, I did this the next call. I did this, the employment. Oh, we do the residence compliance. So they have sneaky little ways that they get in to see you much more often, intruding on your life. And oftentimes you have to rearrange your entire schedule to meet with them. At the same time, Virginia State Police complain when you walk in because you have to get a change to your registration within 3 days of any change or you're in violation, that they have to pull a police officer, state trooper off the road. Well, not my problem. That's your problem. Okay. Join us to get rid of the law of the registry, and then we wouldn't have this problem. Okay. If we didn't have a registry that did more harm than it did any kind of good at all, then maybe you wouldn't have to worry about it so much. Until then, I don't want to hear it. And anybody on the registry does not want to hear it. So with that, understand that for those of you enjoying yourself traveling over the holidays, good on you. I'm glad that you did. But remember, there are a lot of us who don't because either we're hamstrung because they won't let us get a job, they won't help us find a job, they will penalize us if we don't have a job, and they will penalize us if we do have a job and manage somehow to scrape together enough money to go traveling abroad. There's additional um, whole strata of painful hoops that you have to jump through just to get on with your life and just to make your mark in the world, just because a lying police officer said that you did something, or you know you did something no worse than arson, stealing a car or something like that, for which they don't have perpetual punishment for that. So, it's really something that you have to decide, I think, in society, what you're going to prioritize. And somehow they call it prioritizing helping children, protect their innocence. And I'm all for that. But what they really do is perpetually punish people and then blame those same people for not getting ahead in life when they've thrown every obstacle in their path. This is Norman Michaelation, 20th of December, 2024.